You're free, actually. Is there rainwater in his cup?
No. I must put a hole in it.
So I put that on there.
Cool.
Go over there now.
Where? Yeah, we should go by the honey bear. Yeah.
In great bourbon, it kind of all starts in your limestone water, kind of the first key step in the bourbon making process. But over 95% of the world's bourbon is made in the central Kentucky region here. Kind of a unique statistic is that 50% of that 95% is all made right here at Jim Beam. So we are the world's number one selling bourbon, and we do produce a lot of alcohol here. But the main reason that Kentucky stands out as far as the whole bourbon making process is because of that limestone water. So we have all this limestone rock that runs beneath us here. Once that water kind of trickles through there, it will naturally remove the iron from that water, but also adds in calcium. So kind of have that iron-free, calcium-rich water, just perfect for bourbon making missions here. But you guys will have to walk over it, kind of look down limestone rock here, kind of gives you a better idea what the original rocks would look like. It's kind of dark out there. So this little room here is just more of a replica, just kind of a fake Jimbo well we have. We get all of our water source from. We have 2 natural spring-fed lakes that on the property here, so that's where pretty much all of our water comes from. Any questions on them for the water? Kind of first piece out. Put your head behind you. Next, we have the addition of all the grains here. One of those bourbon requirements is that your mash bill recipe must contain at least 51% corn. Must be the dominant grain for it to be called a bourbon. So we use 3 grains for all of our products here. We have corn, rye, and malted barley. But each grain adds something to taste profile to bourbon. So with corn being your dominant grain, you'll get that sweetness from all the bourbons out on the market. Next, we have rye, which comes that traditional flavor grain. Adds in more of that spiciness, which also get more of that bitterness as well. And then finally, we have malted barley, which is very good for the fermentation process. We'll talk about that next. But you definitely picked up on the bitter and joviness kind of flavor taste profile as well. Once we get all 3 of our grains in, and then send to our hammer mill, we grind them up and crush them up in a very powdery texture. Almost looks like sand that comes out there. Once we've crushed up all of our grains, we're then ready for cooking. That's what takes place on leftover, it's still mashed up. So we throw in all 3 grains that are being crushed up. We also throw in some limestone water we just came from. This mash tub though only holds about 500 gallons. So keep an eye on this one, and we'll see a much larger massive scale version here in about 15 minutes or so. So that small scale distillery I was telling you about the bus ride down, that's the building we're in right now. It was just built in August of 2012, about 2.5 years ago. But it is producing alcohol. It's still the real deal like everything else, just very, very much smaller proportion. So we'll open up and take a sneak peek on the inside.
Doesn't look like.
Any questions as far as cooking or grains goes at all? Starting to smell a little bit better. We're gonna kind of slide right over this way. So next we have the addition of the yeast and also the fermentation process. But the Beam family has used the same yeast strain since 1935, or after Prohibition ended. We've kept alive all these years, still use the exact same one today. So the jug yeast, kind of what it looks like. It's about left over in this little refrigerator. Just kind of gives you a picture of that old-fashioned jug yeast. But the first thing we're going to do is we're going to make what I call a donut. That's just sitting up here in this black and green tub here. This donut basically acts as a donor for that yeast, so it will just make much, much larger portions of our product that we're going to produce here. So to your left over here, we have 3 fermenters. They each hold 500 gallons as well. So once we're done cooking the mash dough where we just came from, we take all that liquid out of there. We're going to throw it on the inside of the fermenter. We also add in that yeast and donut. And this is where your big chemical reactions take place on the inside. It's really going to start to break down those starches into sugars. Those sugars what creates that little bit of ethanol or alcohol. And then you have a lot of bubbles that come off the top of that process. That is the CO2 just escaping off that reaction occurring on the inside there. Once fermentation is complete, we'll then talk about distillation. That's at the top stairs here in just a second. But kind of give you an idea of the small scale version. Only one of these fermenters will produce 1 barrel worth of alcohol. That barrel holds 53 gallons. So you start off with 500 gallons, only yields off 53. So a lot goes in, very, very small amount comes out in the long run. But everyone's fermentation process will vary out there on the market. Every distillery is different. But for us here at Jim Beam, it sits in this process for about 3 days, and it's going to be about 6% alcohol. So kind of a potent stout beer you find out there on the market. But in the bourbon industry, we like to call it distiller's beer. So if we were a beer brewery, this would kind of be our last stop. We would just simply cut off the process right here. But of course, we're not a brewery. We are a distillery. So all we're doing is just carrying this process one step further. We send it through distillation and strip away that alcohol from that beer. That's what we'll talk about next here in a second. Once again, though, kind of keep your eyes on these fermenters, and we'll see the much massive scale version here in about 10 minutes or so. So the overall purpose of this little craft distiller is built kind of more for our visitor program and tourists that come through here. It's just simply a 1 barrel at a time operation, so it makes it a little bit easier to understand and comprehend from start to finish all the way through there. So kind of cool. But yeah, producing alcohol. Any questions though as far as yeast fermentation process goes on? Like I said, you're more welcome to take pictures all the way through. All right, we're actually going to slide upstairs. So once we have our 6% alcohol known as distiller's beer, next process is distillation, kind of right behind me, but once again, we're still on that small scale. We're first going to take our beer, we're going to insert the top of that beer still back one there. That still is only about 15 or 20 feet tall, it goes down to the basement. But on the inside of that still, there are 14 separation trays of plates, go from the top down to the bottom. So you guys see those little circular windows there, you see all that grain kind of built up on the inside. All that beer is doing is taking all those plates and trays, just making its way down the bottom. While that's occurring, we're then bringing up steam and heat from the very bottom, rising up, and it's basically going to be vaporizing and stripping off that alcohol process into your vapor form. So in other words, all of your grains will make their way down to the bottom, all of your alcohols then vaporize off the top. Once your vapor leaves the beer still, it moves into the spirit still, this little copper still in the very front. Doing the exact same thing on the inside, so there's only 4 separation trays, just once again, we'll right back off the vapor. Once that's complete, you'll see the low wine cooler on the back wall, little skinny tube back there. And all that is a condenser. We you just condense that vapor back into the liquid form. And normally that's the liquid coming off the low wine tail box here at the very front, just nothing's coming off as right now. But it's sitting in the mason jar right beside it. Kind of looks like water, has a clear color to it, but it's definitely not water. That is 125 proof, so there's good stuff. But that's also the completion of our first distillation process. So, like most bourbons out there on the market, we do double distill. Second distillation is in the doubler right here in the corner. So, inserting it as a liquid, we just gently re-distill it for a second time, right back off the paper. Kind of the same thing as first time. Vapor comes off the doubler, now hits the high wine cooler, what's on the back wall, vapor to liquid, and now you can kind of see that liquid coming off the high wine tail box. Once again, it still looks like water, has that clearness of color, but now we've increased that proof. That's going to be 135 proof. So 125 is our low wine first distillation, 135 is that high wine second distillation process. So I know it's kind of a confusing process from start to finish, lots of science, chemistry, and technology on my side there. But once again though, kind of keep your eye on all this equipment, and we're going to see a bunch of masses here. That's pretty much kind of considered your moonshine, white lightning, white dog, all sorts of different sort. Bleach is basically what it is. Any questions though as far as distillation goes at all? 125 to 135. So we kind of saw out this there.